Percy Jackson is a book series centering around a kid named Percy Jackson, who discovers he's the son of Poseidon, the Greek god of the sea. The books magically transport the stories from 2,000 years ago to today, and it kickstarted love for all things mythological in me. I love the idea of people from ancient times sharing stories with us in modern times. After I read the first book, I searched for signs of gods and goddesses in my own community. I looked for Greek references, bought books filled with myths, and immersed myself in a culture that had been dead for so long. To me, the gods and goddesses of Greece were real, living beings. I knew they were real exactly. I couldn't touch them or find them at an address, but they were living ideas of people. They were the representation of people that exist, whom I loved. They were flawed, they were funny, they made mistakes, they were powerful and interesting. They were the fictional representation of my friends and people I hoped to be my friends. For the longest time, I spent every day reading lots of books. I spent so much time reading that I never really had any friends. So the characters in my books were my friends. I treated them exactly like you would your best friend, only I looked way crazier when I talked to them. But eventually I realized I had to let go. I had to make my own friends in the real world and stop worrying my mom so much because I spent all my time alone in my room. When I emerged in this world of my imagination, I sought out friends who like the gods and goddesses I'd come to know in books like Percy Jackson. Just like Athena, my friend Teddy looks at every angle of every situation and constantly makes me say, I totally got that, but just in case, say it one more time. While Teddy has an outstanding mind, Emma is a never-ending rainbow. The positivity never stops. She's a constant flow of laughter and energy when I need it the most. Like Apollo, she is the sun. But then I began to realize that this love for Greek mythology isn't just for me. Anyone can fall in love with it, and many people have. The whole world admires this culture. Pop culture is full of references to Greek culture. If you went to the movie theater in 1997, Hercules from Disney was playing. Even though it is grossly inaccurate and not even Roman, we've watched it every year in Latin. In some places, people spend ages in 7th grade learning about the gods, their powers, their symbols, and their family relationships, which, by the way, are nothing short of weird. Their family dynamics are like a reality TV show, and somehow Zeus is both the father and uncle of some gods. And don't even get me started on what he would do when he would transform into animals and visit Earth. While we have many versions of the same myths, all told relatively the same way, these gods and their stories aren't limited to the pages of these books. We have authors, experts, and ordinary people with a love for Greek mythology that have published book after book after book full of these myths, such as William F. Russell's Classic Myths to Read Aloud, or Edith Hamilton's Greek Mythology. In these books, the connection is obvious. It is literally a book of myths. But there are some books and movies with some small, discrete connection to Greek mythology. For example, Wonder Woman was just in theaters. Wonder Woman is one of the Amazons, making her the daughter of Ares and Harmonia, two Greek gods. If you know Wonder Woman, you already know some Greek mythology. Even the buildings that everyday people work in have the marks of Greek architecture. Law offices, banks, government buildings, old factories. If you walk in any old downtown area of Birmingham, London, or any other Western city, you can see that Greek architecture is all around us. There are arches and marble in theaters. If you open your eyes, you notice that Greek architecture, stories, and references surround us every minute of our lives. Parts of Greek culture are all around us. We can connect back to these stories even though they are 2,000 years removed. So the question becomes, why? What relevance do they have today? And I think it's because we still care about Greek mythology. We recognize that it's still relevant to our lives. These lessons can still apply to us. I can see my life, myself, my choices, my world reflected in that of the Greek gods. For example, a hard decision can be seen in Odysseus' choice between Charybdis and Scylla. To get home to Ithaca, Odysseus has to choose to take a path down a narrow channel with Scylla, a monster that would eat exactly 6 of his men, or sail straight into Charybdis, a whirlpool that can suck in anything in its path. If Odysseus plays it right, everyone on his boat might make it out alive. Odysseus is faced with a decision. Take a chance and risk losing everything, or take the calculated risk and lose some, but not all of his men in his ship. Every single one of these stories has something to tell you. It has a message to send, an idea to convey. Every single one of these stories is still relevant today. These stories tell us why we rise and fall. They chronicle our mistakes and our successes, when we failed and when we triumphed. They catalog the ways of humanity, how you act, how you learn, why you do anything you do, how we've achieved anything we've achieved so far. These Greek myths, they were the beginning of it. A whole new way of writing down the lives of our ancestors and the many people that came after. These stories are our lives, but at the same time, someone else's. It was the beginning of each work of art that mirrors our lives in new places, with new problems, with new ways to conquer challenges. They can help us connect to people who were alive when the Roman alphabet, as we know it, didn't exist. Doesn't matter how many centuries have passed, where the person came from, or how they lived. We can still understand them, relate to them, know them. Every single one of these stories is the same, because all of humanity faces the same issues when we figure out place, or time, or anything beyond our own minds. These Greek myths are the reasons why the same stories are told everywhere. The same Greek myths that touched me as a child could have touched a child just like on a whole other continent. It is the reason why some kids learn about it in 7th grade, read the Iliad and the Odyssey in high school. It is the doorway to all of their Western literature. It is the beginning of writing that changed the world forever. Greek mythology began a history of storytelling that connect people centuries, continents, and even worlds apart. The stories are small and short, but their impact is big and long-lasting. It created a movement that couldn't be silenced, couldn't be broken, and I doubt will ever be. The plots of these myths are the plots of our lives. They're the heartbeat of every single person on the planet. It is the bond that connects us all and breaks any barrier between us. And until humanity changes beyond recognition, the true core of these stories will always remain the same. No matter how far apart in distance or time, whether imagination or reality. Thank you.